Hey, I want to welcome you to week 4 of our series, The Shepherd's Way. I'm Bob and I'll be your host. What average person would spend their time nostalgically dreaming of manure? No one, right? I mean, why would anyone sit and daydream about dung? And yet, we do this most every day by listening to the lies of Satan. His lies can focus our thoughts on our past. We think about our failures, our mistakes, missed opportunities, or even the road not taken. These lies cause us to imagine the what-ifs of life. You know what I'm talking about. What if I had made a better decision? What if I had chosen the other path? What if I had tried harder? Or what if I had married the other person? Eventually, the what-ifs will completely steal away the joy and contentment in what God has already given us. Satan wants us to believe that our lives would be better if we had, fill in the blank. He's convinced you of something, right? He wants us to discount God's ability to make something great out of our previous destructive choices. This type of thinking is like daydreaming nostalgically about manure. It stinks, it's disgusting, and it needs to be thoroughly washed from our minds and our hearts. Regardless of the consequences of our past, we must make a deliberate decision to trust God's faithfulness to write our life story using our past, present, and future to bring Him glory and us joyful contentment. Satan wants us to doubt God's love and ability to use our hurts, habits, and hang-ups. But a cursory look at the Bible shows God's willingness to use the hurts, habits, and hang-ups of biblical characters like Adam and Eve, Abraham, David, the 12 disciples, and even Paul. All of these have shameful failures in their past, and yet I believe their stories are in the Bible as an example of how God can change and use us regardless of our past. God wants to protect us from Satan's lies about our past mistakes as well as our present circumstances. Whatever hardships you are going through today, I guarantee you, Satan is using different lies to get you to doubt God's love, forgiveness, presence, and power. The enemy wants us to see hardships as a punishment from God, that He's mad at us. But Hebrews 12:7 says we are to consider all hardships as discipline. Consider all hardships as discipline. It doesn't say that they are discipline, but we're to consider hardships as discipline. You see, hardships teach us to trust in, depend on, and follow God. When challenges come, we must be determined to trust God and know that all things are according to His purpose and His plan. Now, I'll be the first to say this isn't easy, but please remember, an all-loving God would not allow anything that wasn't meant to grow us more into image of Christ. Listen to that again. Our all-loving God would not allow anything to come into our lives that wasn't meant to grow us more into the image of Christ. God protects us from the devil's lies by helping us see hardships as discipline. These hardships strengthen our spiritual muscles and help us focus on what we know to be true of our good shepherd. They also help us delineate God's truths from Satan's lies. Now you might think, Bob, I'm not sure I can make it through this difficulty. I feel like I'm going to collapse. Listen, it's okay to feel weak and to feel weary. When we're feeling that way, remember Jesus' command. Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. When we're feeling weary, when we're feeling weak, He commands us, come to me. And His gift for that is rest. So regardless of how heavy your burden, Jesus will give you rest, comfort, and a fulfilled life. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, Paul says, God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, He will show you a way out so that you can endure. When you're going through hardship, there is always a temptation to doubt God. Always a temptation to believe that we can doubt God, right? But the truth is, whenever a temptation comes, we don't have to doubt God. We don't have to believe it's too hard. We don't have to believe that it's unfair. But the Bible gives us definitively, the Bible definitively states that God will not allow it to be more than we can handle. So when hardships come, we can go back to that verse in 1 Corinthians 10:13. Now, you may believe you can't make it through, but God has promised you can. He's promised that He'll always provide a way out. Sometimes that way out takes weeks, months, or even years, but Jesus will give you rest, strength, confidence, and assurance to get you through to the very end. But none of this happens if we don't determine deep within our hearts that we can trust God regardless of our circumstances, which requires us to know God, recognize His voice, and respond to Him obediently. Warren Wiersbe has said, "Trials do not make a person. They reveal what a person is made of." Trials do not make a person. They reveal what a person is made of. What a great statement. It reveals what we're made of. And so when hardships come, instead of beating ourselves up because maybe we're not handling it the best, or we're feeling weak or weary, or we just give in to the temptation to lose our temper or whatever, listen, it's okay. That's just revealing what needs to be changed in us, what's not just like Christ. And it reveals where we need to grow. And there's nothing wrong with needing to grow. And so as we go through trials, as we go through hardships, there are certain things that thankfully we know for sure. One is this: we know for sure God can be trusted regardless of our circumstances. He can always be trusted. Number two, if we listen to God's voice, He will protect us from Satan's lies. If we listen to God's voice, it doesn't matter if Satan surrounds us like a high school marching band playing as loud as they can. God's still small voice will be much louder than Satan's lies, and we will always hear God's voice and reject Satan's lies. Number three, we must trust Him. We must trust God to carry us through even the most difficult circumstances. We may not know how things are going to turn out, or we may know how they're going to turn out, and they may be devastating. They may be leading to a great loss, but we have to trust Him to carry us through, and that He will carry us through. And then number four, finally, trusting God and His plan will prevent us from spreading the manure of past hurts, habits, and hang-ups. When we trust God, we don't have to worry about our past, because God will take our past and He'll renew it, and He'll remake it so that it's a beautiful story that we get to share now, so that somebody who is presently where we used to be, we can help them and say, listen, I made it out. Let me show you the way, and we can help them. I pray your discussion time will strengthen your trust in God and His perfect plan for your life.